I might lose a few friends by saying this, but it needs to be said. Spanish friendships are superior to American ones. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Danielle. I've been living in Madrid, Spain for a little over a year and a half now, and I know this is very weird to admit, but my entire life, I've never had much luck at making friends. I was always a very quiet kid, and my social battery is that of like an iPhone 10. It takes a very long time to charge, and then the second that it hits full, it lasts at 100% for like 5 hours, and then it drains before the next 10 minutes. And growing up, this made it a bit hard in order to maintain good friendships because I was either very attentive and then not attentive at all, or I was just seen as flat out flaky, which is totally bad on my part. But either way, it was this weird kind of thing that I had to navigate as I grew up because A, what I was doing was not sustainable, and B, I had to figure out why I always felt like I was being drained. And ever since I've moved out to Spain, I've started to make different kinds of friends and find myself going out more, making plans more, and being generally okay the following day in the sense that I don't feel mentally drained or physically drained. And I feel like it's because Spanish friendships operate very differently than American friendships, so we're gonna talk about that today. And before we get into it, I do want to clarify, even though I'm gonna be kind of shitting on my friends in the States, I love them all to bits. Like, this is not at all a reflection of the ones that have stayed by my side, because I've had friendships that have lasted a couple months or a year, and those are gonna be the ones that I'm using as a point of reference in this video, but there are also friendships that I've had that are ongoing 7 years, 8 years. The longest friendship I have is 13 years. So there are definitely amazing Americans out there, and there are definitely fantastic people, and what I'm about to say doesn't apply to everyone, but it does apply to many people. So we're going to be talking about that. Now we can get into it. Being born and raised as an American in a suburban town on the outskirts of Philadelphia, it made you see people in a different way versus if you were to live in a more rural area or a more urban area. Because in the suburbs, it's kind of like one of those communities where everyone kind of knows everything about everyone, and gossip spreads like wildfire. So if you do something with someone, or you say something about someone, or you have a falling out with someone, then everyone knows about it. So it makes you pick and choose your people very carefully, and you're always a bit kind of skeptical of who knows what, how much can you say to who, what is something that someone's hiding, can you actually trust this person? There's all these different things that are kind of going on in your head because you do need to be conscious of what you're saying to who, when, and how. And maybe what I'm about to be saying about Spanish people is just because I'm living in Madrid, so it's city life versus suburban life, but living out here in Madrid, A, you can make a lot more low maintenance friends, and B, you don't need to be as conscious. Let me explain what I mean by this so it doesn't come out wrong. Growing up in suburbia is very different than growing up in a rural area or in an urban area. And at least for me, I grew up in a suburban town on the outskirts of Philadelphia, which means that everyone knows everything about everyone. So if I had a fight with someone, if I had a falling out with someone, if I liked someone, if I dated someone, everyone knew about it. It wasn't like something you could keep secret unless you were amazing at keeping a secret, and even then, it was still iffy. There were so many gossip girls, there were so many chit-chatters, there was always a buzz of rumors just floating in the air, and it made it so that you had to be very, very conscious and very, very intentional about what you said to who, when, and how. And it also meant that because everyone was so close, you had to always be very close with that person. And as I mentioned before, I had a very limited social battery, and we're gonna pair that with the fact that I was a complete book nerd and only had my nose in the book for most of my life. So this combination with this kind of atmosphere didn't breed very well for me. So what would end up happening 9 times out of 10 is that I would either have 1 or 2 extremely close people that knew everything about me, and everyone else I kept on the outside. So of course I would make friends, I would hang out with people on the weekends, etc., etc. But the people that I would hang out with were either not from my school or not from my city. So I would intentionally make friends with people outside of my town so that I could actually be my own independent person and not have to worry about anyone knowing what was going on in my life. And yes, you could say that this is very weird and this is very toxic, but for me, I loved it. It felt like I was living 2 separate lives, and that's the way I wanted it to stay. I didn't want to have to worry about, oh, does this girl know this girl, so I can't vent about my feelings to her because then she's just gonna go behind my back and tell her. I didn't want to have to deal with that. I also didn't want to have to deal with, if I'm having a bad day, is someone gonna tell someone else and then make me look like a joke, or then spread it around that I'm going through this thing and then everyone's gonna start asking me questions? I didn't want that either. And in my town, these kinds of things would happen. Like, for example, there was a girl in my school that got pregnant when she was 16, and before she even started showing, everyone knew about it, not because she told anyone, not because she publicized it, but because she told her friend told her friend, and that friend told everyone. And what should be a very intimate, private discussion that she has with her partner about it, everyone knew, everyone had an opinion about it. It was not something that she could contain, and it literally got to the point where she was just like, fine, whatever, and she just showed up to school pregnant, which for us in our town was a very big deal. No one was pregnant. And again, it could just be because Madrid is a big city, proximity and friend groups are a bit more dispersed, so you don't have to worry about everyone knowing everyone. But I don't feel this fear of having to be super conscious about what I'm telling everyone the second that I meet them. The second that I would meet anyone in my hometown, I was always constantly thinking, who do you know? Who could you know? Where do you live? Who lives around you? But out here, I'm just thinking like, oh, this looks like a cool person. Let me go have a conversation with them. And then from there, you find out if they know someone that you know. But also it could just be because of the types of people that I'm attracting. They're not the kinds of people that go behind your back and gossip. So if you are having an issue with one of your mutual friends, for example, you can confidently confide in this new friend and say, hey, I know you know this person, but I'm just going through a lot right now. Do you mind if I rant? And they'll let you rant, and the other person will never be none the wiser, either because they're a great actor or because the new friend that you just made is loyal enough and mature enough to know that this is not their battle that they don't need to get into, and you guys are going to sort it out on your own, and that's that. Versus in a small town, that would never happen. If one of my mutual friends knew that I had an issue with another one of our mutual friends, everyone, and not just in that 3-person scenario, but the entire friend group would know about it. And it really does only get better from there, because as I mentioned before, you can have more low maintenance friendships. And everyone has a different saying for this, so you may not use the term low maintenance, but for me, how I describe a low maintenance friend is someone that I don't necessarily need to see every day, talk to every day, or honestly even talk to or see every week or month. It's someone that I can talk to every couple of days, every couple of weeks, see every couple of months, and we're picking right back up on the same page like time was not even a thing. And I did not have this at all growing up. The kind of friends that I had when I was in the States, we had this sort of dynamic where it didn't matter if we were friends for 1 year, 2 years, or even 1 month or 2 months. If you stopped talking to that person for, let's say, a week or 2 weeks, or God forbid, a month, they would start to treat you like you were a stranger again. It didn't matter how much you had gone through together. It didn't matter how long you knew them. If you weren't talking to them on a very frequent basis, it was like you didn't exist in their books, which meant that you didn't exist in their lives, which meant that when you do reconvene, you're now a stranger because you didn't exist. And I specifically remember that there was a girl that I was really, really close friends with, and this must have been in 11th grade, so we were 17 at the time, but we had gone through a really intense experience together. We were very close friends. We were practically inseparable. And then for one summer, I went away and we just completely stopped talking. And the next time that we saw each other again, she literally treated me like I was a stranger. We didn't talk at all, and it was so uncomfortable that the friendship quite literally faded away because we went for a period of time of not talking to each other. So then we just got used to not talking to each other and then kept that trend going even when we saw each other in person. And it was such a weird feeling for me, and I remember it like it was yesterday because I couldn't help but think to myself, girl, like we were friends. How did this happen? And for her, it was just like, it happened. It doesn't matter. It just happened. And out here in Spain, I'm so happy to say that I haven't had to deal with this. Because for example, when I first moved out here, I made a friend with a girl and we were very close. We hung out a bunch, and then life kind of got in the way. We both got a new job and we started working a lot and couldn't really see each other. And then 6 months went by, and then we randomly saw each other in a bar, and instead of being like, oh, hi, she said, hi, how are you? She hugged me, she did the 2 kisses, she asked me about my life, and then she invited me to her friend's birthday, a friend that I had never met before, the upcoming weekend. Meaning that it didn't matter that I didn't know her friend, it didn't matter that we just spent half a year of not talking to each other. Just by us seeing each other again, she was like, oh yeah, I remember that I like this person. Do you want to come with me to this party? And then I went to her to the party. And this was just such a fun experience because that would never happen in the US. Like, I can even say that confidently because I've had friends that I've had a falling out with. We reconnected around the holiday season. My birthday is on January 6th, so I very easily could have invited them to my birthday, but I felt like because I didn't know them well enough anymore, it wouldn't be welcome company for me, so I didn't invite them. And I very well could have. And I know that it's different when it's your birthday versus when it's someone else's birthday, but either way, in my opinion, it's an intimate gathering of friends that you want to spend time with on an important date, and the fact that she invited me to this birthday was very symbolic because A, she not only took the time to talk with me in this bar when she was with another one of her friends and introduced me to this friend, but also B, she introduced me to a friend of hers that was hosting an entire party, had absolutely no idea who I was, and they all welcomed me and didn't make me feel any guilt or pressure for the fact that time had passed and we hadn't spoken. And when it comes to making new friends now, I feel like just having this sense of security of these people, like I don't need to see you every single day in order to know that we're good and we can continue to be good when we pick back up. it's so refreshing because I still sometimes am a grandma. I don't like to go out at night. Anyone that knows me knows like after 9 p.m., I like to curl up with either a movie, a book, and then go to sleep very early. So it's very nice to know that I can still have these habits. I can still have these grandma traits and make friends with people who aren't going to hold it against me, especially when a lot of the main forms of bonding out here in Spain is clubbing. Again, I'm 21 right now. The friends that I have are 21, 22, 23, 24. These are our prime years for partying. And the fact that I can still act like a grandma and they're not going to hold it against me, even though they're all bonding, all going out, all getting closer with each other on the weekends, but still making time for me, that tells me everything I need to know. So if you're Spanish and you're watching this, I hope you don't take any offense to me saying I can make more low maintenance friendships with Spanish people, because genuinely speaking, that is the highest form of compliment I could ever give someone. The fact that I don't feel like I need to dress up in any sort of way in terms of my personality or my aesthetics in order to actually get you to like me or want to hang out with me, that's such a gift in and of itself. But what are your thoughts when I say something like that? Do you guys know instantly like, yeah, this is why we are this way? Or is this kind of like a weird new thing that you're just hearing for the first time? Because of course, where you live and your perceptions of the world and how you interact with people are going to be variables in all of this. So maybe if I was a complete and utter bitch, then no one would ever want to be my friend and then I couldn't have these low maintenance friendships, etc., etc. But do you agree with what I'm saying? And if so, why do you think this is? I'll be looking forward to reading the comment section, and in the meantime, thank you for listening, and I'll speak to you again soon.